From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to OpenLine on Wednesday night. I'm Ben Hall. Tonight, we're talking all about Metro schools. Your chance to call in with any question you may have about Metro schools, specifically what is on the menu. And we'll get to that in a moment. But first, let me introduce our guests. We have with us Tony Majors, who is the Metro School Support Services, part of the leadership team. Thank you for being with us.
I'm glad to be here.
Spencer Taylor, the Nutrition Director for Metro Schools, and Rebecca Polson, who is the District Chef. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
We're going to talk about the menu, changes to the school lunch program, all of that in a moment. But there's been a lot of discussion about what's going on in East Nashville, an effort to improve low-performing schools out there. And I want to talk to you about that. Where do we stand with that? It's been certainly discussed a great deal, somewhat controversial. A lot of parents are concerned. Kind of take us through where we are right now with that.
Well, I think where we are right now is the fact that once the high priority schools list came out, of course, the number of schools in Metro that were on the list increased from 8 to, I believe, 15. So right now, Dr. Register is hosting us a set, I think 27 actually, over the next 3 to 4 weeks of community forums where he's actually meeting with parents to get their input into some of our plans, because right now we've not formally developed a plan. We're trying to get as much input as possible as what are going to be some of the best strategies and things that we need to pursue in order to help turn our low performing schools into high performing schools. I think one of the biggest things that Dr. Register has set a very ambitious goal of having no high priority schools within 3 years in our school system.
He has no priority schools within 3 years. One of the things that's been floated, give all parents in East Nashville their choice of schools. If the plan is done right, all parents would get their first or second choice for schools. Do you have some, how would that work?
Well, it could be a combination of multiple strategies. Of course, with our high schools, we're already looking at how do we provide school choice for all high school students so they can make an educational decision based on their career interest. For East Nashville per se, I think we're looking at multiple forms of choice options, including MTA, including looking at school zones themselves, looking at how do we work more effectively with our charter schools. So it's going to be a very comprehensive approach, and that's why we're going to spend so much time communicating with parents and community leaders as well as educators to figure out exactly what's going to work in the East Nashville community.
Might some schools be closed?
I think school closure is always an option, so that's something that we do have to consider. At this point, I think it would be premature for us to say which schools are being identified as possible, as being possibly closed, but I think we do have to keep in the back of our mind the school closing aspect, because we also always have to look at building capacity. And right now, if we have an overabundance of schools in a certain area and certain schools are under capacity, then we have to look at the feasibility of keeping buildings open with a low student population.
And so there's some schools that are on the priority list. We've seen that number go up. Obviously several in East Nashville. There are also very high performing schools in East Nashville. Laughlin Elementary is one, a reward school that a lot of parents would hate to see anything happen to Laughlin. So you have these schools that are high performing as well. How do you protect those while at the same time improving the low performing?
Well, I think it goes back to getting the community input. Of course, we do want to protect our high performing, high achieving schools. I think it'll boil down to, we will look at a systemic approach for East Nashville. You know, how do we maintain the high performance in our high performing schools and then expand upon their capacity to provide quality programming? How do we utilize our charter schools more effectively to provide high quality choice options for our kids? And then, you know, just overall, what's going to be the best decision for that community?
And there's some talk about a full plan ready by January 1st. So here we are coming up, we're in September. That'll come around pretty fast. It
will come around fast, but when you consider the fact that you're talking about, you know, several thousand students in one community, we have to have time to communicate that to parents, and we also have to have time to clearly communicate the plans to the board, to schools, and get that information out so that we would be ready to implement in August.
So let's say I'm a parent in that area and I'm concerned. I'm concerned either I'm going to a school that's low performing, I want to turn it around, or I'm going to a school that's high performing, my child is, and I don't want it to be harmed. What does that parent do at this point? Kind of what are the options out there?
Well, the first option is, of course, tomorrow night at 5 o'clock at Bailey Middle School. Dr. Register is having his first community forum on this issue. So any parent that has issues, or not issues, that would like to hear more and be involved in the conversation, I'd strongly suggest that you do attend the meeting tomorrow afternoon at Bailey Middle School. Immediately following Dr. Register's meeting at Bailey, there will be the first Parent Advisory Council meeting for the Stratford cluster at Bailey Middle School as well. So there are two opportunities for parents to be engaged in the conversation. I would also just continually check our website for Dr. Register's meeting schedule. Again, he's going to have 27 meetings over the next 3 to 4 weeks. So continually attending these meetings, making sure that your voice is heard, but also hearing his plan and his vision for what he's trying to accomplish.
And if a parent thinks some of these decisions have already been made, I go to these meetings, how much of a difference would it make, what is heard at these meetings? Have the decisions been essentially outlined and determined, or are they really going to be shaped by these meetings?
They're really going to be shaped with parent and community and educator input. The plan has not been made. Right now, we spend a great deal of time with central office leadership and Dr. Register's executive staff just reviewing multiple data points. So for the last 2 weeks, we've really been looking at data for every school in East Nashville. That data is going to help inform some of our decisions, but again, we want the input from the parents, but we also want input from the principals in East Nashville, the teachers in Nashville, and some of the community members, because we want to make sure that we honor their desires and wishes as we build a comprehensive plan.
And a few more on this, and then certainly people can call in, with questions. But when you say data, what data is being looked at? What are you looking at? Obviously, which schools are low performing, and you have the 13 of them or 15 or whatever. But what other data is looked at? What's important? What's going into this decision?
So it's easy to look at student performance data. Of course, when you're just looking at that is a summative assessment of how kids did last year. We also want to look at their attendance patterns, disciplinary practices. We want to look at other factors that may have contributed to their either high performance or low performance. We're also looking at teacher quality. We're looking at teachers' experience. We're looking at teacher certification. So we are actually unpacking every data point that we can find for all the schools, and not just the schools in East Nashville, all of our low-performing schools.
So if there are schools where teachers, I guess, aren't as high performing, and tenure and all of that, how able are you to move teachers around or whatever? If there are a lot of lower performing teachers, I know there have been a lot of changes, is there training, or do you move some out, or what do you do when you look at the data as far as teachers?
Well, there are multiple approaches to deal with teacher performance. Of course, we do want high performing teachers in all of our classrooms. Of course, if a teacher is marginal and needs some additional assistance, then of course as a school system we want to make sure we provide those resources for them, usually under the guidance and discretion of the school's principal. If we do have low performing teachers, then of course we do want to move swiftly to disciplinary measures first to try and improve their performance. But if improvement is not possible, then we would go the due process route and then really look at what's the best placement for that teacher. Does that teacher need to be terminated? Are there other things that need to be put in place? It's not a standard that automatically you're going to be terminated. That is not what we want as a school system. We want to make sure we give every teacher the opportunity to improve. But once you get to the point that the gains just aren't there, then we do have to look at other options.
I want to go to Stephanie now on line one. Hello, Stephanie.
Yes.
Hi. What's on your mind this morning or today?
My question is for the teachers that are at the low-performing schools. Are they aware that their school may be closing? Have they had any information on what's going on with their school?
No, Stephanie, at this point, nothing has been communicated with schools or school principals simply because there is no plan at this point. We're still trying to get input. I think one thing that I will suggest to any teachers that may be in some of the lower performing schools, I think you should attend Dr. Register's meetings as well. So that way you can have your voice heard and you can state whatever the circumstances are that you feel are negatively impacting you as an individual classroom teacher or the schools in your community.
One of the things when you're talking about teachers, then you also talk about principals. There could be some new principals in place here by January 1st, right?
I think that is an option, but again, without a formal plan, I couldn't say specifically that we've identified this principal to be moved or demoted or whatever the circumstances are. Again, I think I want to go back to the fact that Dr. Register scheduled 27 meetings in the next 3 to 4 weeks. He really wants to get the input from as many people as he can.
Well, it's good to talk about that. So that is one of the issues we can talk about. If you want to call, there's the number 737 plus 737 7587, and we're also going to have an opportunity to talk to the chef of Metro Schools. I mean, how often do you get to talk to the chef? So I'm very glad Rebecca Paulson is here. Also Spencer Taylor, who's the nutrition director. Some big changes with school lunches. If you have any questions about that, you want to talk about that, give us a call. We'll take a break. Be back right after this.